Hello, YouTube pipe smokers. Southern Piper here with another installment, long overdue, of Monday Musing. First, I want to apologize for the sound quality. I'm having trouble with both my lavalier mic as well as my condenser mic. Not sure what's going on there. But we'll just go back to plain Jane. How about that? So, with summer kind of starting to wrap up, at least as far as the, school summer. I know kids are going back to school in a couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, or at least down here they are. People are getting those last summer vacations in. And it reminded me of a particular summer trip we took when I was a kid. And I thought I'd share that with you. Before I do though, a couple things. I am smoking in my Peterson Iran bent billiard. And in it, I am trying, for the first time, new to me, Robert McConnell Ripe Honeydew. Pretty good blend, Virginia. There's, some sort of a honey casing on top, but it's good. I think it would benefit from some aging. I bought this back last month, so June of 2022, when Smoking Pipes did, they had a drop, a Robert McConnell drop, so I picked up several tins of different tobaccos that McConnell puts out. But it's tasty. This is my second bowl of it. It's good. I'll have to put it on my list to do a review one day. All right. Next item of business before I get into my story. I want to do a couple of thank yous to new subscribers. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, I wrapped up my Thank You Thursday series. So I said I would just be fitting them in as they come along. So here we go. I'm going to start with a couple of presenters. Todd Blessing is a fellow presenter. Looks like he's been around for a little while. He's got some subs there. I can't remember exactly how many, but he seems to be doing a pretty good job there. So Todd Blessing, thank you for subscribing to me. Appreciate your support. Look forward to getting to know you a little bit better through your content as well. Next is Black Flame Lounge, a newer presenter, Black Flame Lounge. He's got several videos out, so you can check him out. I'll leave links to both Todd and Black Flame, down in the description, as always. But Black Flame Lounge, appreciate your sub on my channel. So then we'll get into, and I believe the rest of these are all non-presenters. I was not able to find any content. But Brian B., old friend of many of ours, Brian B., thank you for your subscription, sir. Or shall I say your resubscription. Good to see you again, brother. Next is Nick Trapani, or Trapani. Nick, thank you for your sub. Then we have Mark Vejnar. I'm assuming that's the correct pronunciation. Mark, if it's not, I apologize. But thank you for your sub. Next, we have Johnny Corp. Johnny, appreciate your sub. As well as JerryM. Jerry, thank you for your sub. Next, we have, I believe, a Ukrainian sub from Eastern Europe, Voldemir Shupletsov, or Shupletsov. Certainly apologize for probably butchering your name, but thank you for your sub. Next, we have Serendipity Hunter. Appreciate your sub and your support. Next is Tex Broadway. Tex, thank you for your sub. Then we have Iron Elegance. Thank you, Iron Elegance, for your sub. And we will we'll close out this round, and it's either Ultrad 321 or Ultra D 321. Appreciate your sub and your support as well. All right, so got caught up on the sub list. These folks have put me over what I guess would be a magical milestone of I'm past the 350 mark. I'm at 359. And since I verbalized that, I'll probably lose a few through whatever wonkiness goes on with YouTube. And then they'll probably magically reappear. So we'll see. I think I mentioned a week or so ago, I'm probably going to try to do a giveaway, like an end of summer giveaway. So be looking for that sometime next month. And then, my gosh, we'll be getting into the school year and into the fall before too long. So figured I would do something with that. So I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do, what type of parameters I'm going to put out there, but just be on the lookout for that. So 7 minutes into this video, and I'm rambling, so I'm gonna get into my story. So growing up, give you a little bit of background. I had a grandmother on my mom's side had just a slew of brothers and sisters, man. I tell you, I think she had 9 or 10. I should say she was one of 9 or 10, so she had 8 or 9 siblings. All of them, with the exception of one, lived right in the central and western Alabama area. And the one lived out in Arizona near Tucson. She and her husband met in the Air Force. I guess technically at the time it was the Army Air Corps. And so they spent a career in the Air Force and retired out of Davis-Monthan and stayed out in the southern Arizona area. So one summer, and I don't know what precipitated the trip, but we took, so my parents, my sister and I, we all rode out and took my grandparents on mom's side, and we drove. And we had, at the time, conversion vans were popular. This was in the mid-'80s. And we had a conversion van, so we piled up and we left one late afternoon one day when Dad had gotten off work. And so we left Tuscaloosa on I-20-59 westbound. And at Meridian, the interstate splits. 59 goes down to New Orleans and 20 heads out west. And so we got to, when Dad was in the Air Force, he was stationed at one of the duty stations he was at, was Barksdale Air Force Base near Shreveport, Louisiana. So we stopped there. And, you know, back then it was easy to get on military installations. So we stopped there, and one of his buddies who was still in the military was there. And that was a pretty cool stop for me. I was really into military stuff as a kid, and the friend of Dad's gave me like some patches, rank pins and stuff. So I thought that was neat. It was cool. Barksdale, if you don't know, is home to the 2nd Bomb Wing, and they fly B-52s out of there. And just super cool, you know, as a kid to see a real military installation, Air Force Base. So anyway, we leave there, and we get hauling across Texas, and man, you talk about a wide state. I believe it took us an entire day to get there. I know we started out and we wound up getting to El Paso to spend the night, but I don't know how long we drove. I don't remember that part. But what I do remember about driving across Texas is once it got real flat, kind of in the western area, I'm assuming that would, I know it was the other side of Dallas. It got real flat, and you could see trains, freight trains, you know, kind of paralleling the interstate. And I would count the cars on the train, and I would report back to Dad how many cars were on that train. And the other interesting thing about Texas was the open air restrooms at their rest stops, which I was not a fan of. Very modest kid, still am fairly modest. Did not want to be able to see my neighbor if I was sitting on the toilet. Not a fan of that at all. But out in western Texas, that's what you do. That's what you have. So we get to El Paso. That'd be the second night. We stay. You know, back then, you know, you didn't have the Fairfield Inns and the Hilton Garden Inns and all that. You know, we stayed at some no-tell motel, and there was a little Tex-Mex place. What I feel like was in the parking lot of the hotel. I could be wrong about that, but I remember they had for dessert, they had these big puff sopapillas. I thought those were really good. Never have found them as good in my entire life since the mid-'80s at that place, which I couldn't even tell you the name of the place. Don't even know if it's still in business, but really good memory there. So we're traversing through El Paso. You know, the interstate goes right by. You know, it goes by the Rio Grande. You can see across the river into Mexico. And then obviously cross into New Mexico to continue our journey. And so, if memory serves, we were able to get from El Paso to Tucson, you know, in that next day. So we get there, of course, great, you know, family reunion, getting to see my great aunt and uncle. This was not the great uncle that smoked a pipe. But my aunt and uncle lived in a retirement community near Tucson. And it was so neat because It's the first time I'd ever seen a house that didn't have a yard out front because they couldn't go grass. They had like stones in the yard. And it was a retirement community, and I learned how to play shuffleboard on this trip, which was really cool. So got to do that, and another activity we did was we drove down and crossed the border at Nogales. So there's Nogales, Arizona, across the border into Nogales, Mexico. So we got to go down there and walked around, and we didn't. I don't remember eating anything. So didn't have a chance of. Didn't get a chance to not drink the water, so they say. So I don't know how far it is, but we were close enough. We got to drive to the OK Corral. Would that be Tombstone, Arizona? And they do reenactments, so that was cool. I got to see a reenactment of the shootout at the OK Corral. And then my uncle wanted us to drive to Las Vegas. And that was every bit of an 8 or 9 hour drive. It had to be. It took us forever. But it was neat. Drove up. We got to go through a little town called Nowhere, Arizona, population 4. It is no longer in existence. It burned down. And it was basically a rest stop that had a little bit of like a tourist shop, souvenirs type stand, lots of Native American jewelry and other crafts and art. So we continued on to Las Vegas, got to go over the Hoover Dam, which was cool. I don't know how long we spent in Las Vegas. I don't know if it was one night or two. And then turned around, headed back to Tucson. And then after a period of time, I don't know how long we were on the trip. We headed back. On our way back, we stopped in Beaumont, Texas, because the aunt and uncle we had gone to visit, their son lived in Beaumont. So we stopped and saw them, spent the night, and then completed our trip. Just a really cool, I think that's probably what turned me on. I have a love for road trips. I just love traveling. I love seeing the country. And that's probably what turned me on to enjoying road trips and seeing the country was that trip back in the 80s. So really cool adventure. Got to see a lot, as a kid who really had never been outside of, my home state, with the exception of maybe crossing over state line into Mississippi for something, or going, into Tennessee to go to the mountains. Had really never been outside of the South. And had really never been outside of Alabama, with the exception of Tennessee mountains and maybe crossing into Mississippi or something. So anyway, I appreciate you sticking around. I know this was a long one. If you did stick around, certainly appreciative. Would love to hear, some of your travel stories, fun memories from vacations you took. Feel free to leave those down in the comments below. And I hope you have a great week. Again, thank you to all my subscribers. Be looking for a giveaway probably in the next month or so. But until next time, my friends, I bid you happy smoking and blessings to you and your family.